Welcome everybody and happy Friday. We're going to get started here because we've got a lot to cover. We do have a special guest today. We have Representative Turek who's going to join us, but want to get started here. So we only have you for 30 minutes. I think my responsibility, I'm Brooke Lovelace. I'm the Executive Director for the Developmental Disabilities Council, for those that don't know me. And I think just with that, I'm turning it over to Amy to get us started.
Morning, everyone. I'm going to be very brief because we want to spend our time listening to Representative Turek, who is so gracious to join us today. I wanted to remind everybody that next week is Funnel Week, which is the week that that legislators have to get bills out of committee. So by the end of the week next week, March 7th, bills that don't involve taxes or spending money have to be out of committee. So there'll be a lot of committee action. Anything that's not out of committee at the end of next week is basically dead for the rest of the session. They won't be talking about it for the rest of the session. I wanted to note there's a new bill number for a bill that we've been tracking, which is House File 509. That is the bill that requires the Children's Health Insurance Program, which we call Hawkeye, that they have to cover autism services, especially applied behavior analysis, which is what that acronym is, ABA. And then just because we had to announce a new bill number and we did a bunch of bill numbers changes last week, I wanted to note that there is a bill, House File 597, that my Representative Eddie Andrews, introduced that requires the legislature to stop changing bill numbers and then keep them all the same. So I know for many advocates that gets confusing when a bill starts off with one number and then changes one or two times after that. It's hard to track. So just was going to note that bill. But I'm going to turn it over to Carlin to go ahead and get started with Representative Turek.
Thanks, Amy, and thanks, Representative Turek, for joining us today. We had such a busy week last week at the Capitol, and so many advocates that showed up to support a bill that Representative Turek has been working on now for 3 years and is working very hard on it and other disability policy initiatives. And we wanted to give him some time today to talk about Work Without Worry and give us an update, because we know people are still in a mode where they want to do something, and now is a great time to act because of the funnel next week. So give him some time to give us some tips and update on that bill, and then all the other things that he's working on. So thank you for joining us, Representative Turek, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, hello everyone. Excited to be here. Had a very busy week, a lot of ups and downs, you can imagine. Legislation, some really high ones. Actually, on Wednesday when we did the Work Without Worry, as Carlin just said, the turnout that we had both in the House and Senate was extraordinary. We couldn't get any more people into those subcommittees, and yeah, I was really proud. That's the reason why I do this job. And yesterday was a tougher day when we're eroding civil rights, and I feel like with what's being done with 504 lawsuit and with this, it's kind of the ups and downs of legislation. But to get into this, so the Work Without Worry, just so everybody knows what we're talking about, for 3 years, this is my disability employment bill to basically change the current program that we have with MEPD, that we limit folks at 250% of the federal poverty line in asset limits of $12,000 for an individual and $13,000 for a couple. My Work Without Worry bill this year was built off of what was done in Tennessee. That was done mainly just due to the political makeup of Tennessee, eliminating the income limits, eliminating the asset limits, and doing away with any sort of including spousal income into it. We've put together an amendment, I think, to address a few of the flaws on our first drafting, which was the draft that we put through. So just so everybody's on the same page, what would happen is from 0% to 150% of the federal poverty line, you would pay zero, nothing into the system. From 150% of the poverty line to 250% of the poverty line, you would pay a flat 3% of your income. And then as now you are capped at 250%, anything above 250%, you would pay a flat 6%. Again, no asset limit whatsoever, no spousal income being included. It was a great bill. We made it unanimously through both the House and Senate, and where everyone can certainly help out the most is, as Carlin said, next week is funnel week. We have to get these bills through HHS committee for them to stay alive. Additionally, some worrying components about this is HHS Representative Nordman has dropped his Medicaid work requirements. We've heard them talking about this. My nuclear option on work without worry was to attach work without worry to their work requirement bill and saying, you want people to have to work here in Iowa, which we already have one of the highest percentages of people on Medicaid that's working, around 75%, and saying, well, let's let people work. Well, unfortunately, Representative Nordman has put in portions of the work without worry, very few though, to address this. And actually, it makes the current situation for an individual worse. It does nothing to the 250% of the poverty line. It would actually move the asset limit from 12,000 to 10,000. The only thing that it does in any way positive is to move the asset limit for couples from 13,000 to 21,000, so essentially doubling it. So we don't want to see that go through. That was always my biggest fear. The Senate tried to do something with this last year, where they recognize, oh, we certainly we're the party of family, pro-marriage. We don't want to de-incentivize marriage, so we won't change any of the components of this. All that we'll do is we'll just double that asset limit on the individuals and double it for a couple, which that's just putting lipstick on a pig. So if everyone can contact members of HHS to support work without worry, but also making sure that they're saying, do not change what we currently have in the bill for the Medicaid work requirements, because actually that's going to make an already bad situation even worse. Another bill that we did this week that we ran through subcommittee on, let's see, we did that on Wednesday, was my elimination of 14C certificates, the ability for employers to pay individuals with disabilities, whether intellectual or physical, a sub-minimum wage. Also in that bill had employment first language, making Iowa an employment first. And I know that this is something that we've worked on for a long time. Unfortunately, that bill was tabled. It did not make it through subcommittee. Only my colleague, the Democrat and the Labor Party, voted for it. Both Republicans did not vote for it. So that bill will officially die. I'll try again for that next year, but that one is done. Another bill that we have is 485. That is eliminating sales tax on mobility aids. That has gone through Ways and Means. Representative Kaufman has assured me that will get a subcommittee and a committee vote. And so if anyone wants to weigh in on that, send some emails or phone calls to Representative Kaufman supporting that, or also to any member of the majority party in Ways and Means. That will certainly help that. Another bill that I have that was not listed on here, which I finally just got back from drafting from LSA, but I've spoken to Representative Bloomingdale about giving me a subcommittee on it, is for Iowa to create a central appropriation fund. This appropriation fund, a lot of states have this, where there's a pot of money and you could use it for two areas. One would be for employed disabled individuals, especially if you're working at small businesses, to be able to help provide ramps, bathroom adaptations, to make accessibility issues, or two, to be able to help with wheelchair repair. Currently, Iowa does not have a central appropriation fund. My bill, the way that it's written, is we're going to take money from disabled parking ticket violations and fund the central appropriation fund. Representative Bloomingdale, that will get sent to state government, and she has told me that she would like to give that a subcommittee. So hopefully we can get a subcommittee on that this week, hopefully Tuesday or Wednesday before we see the final deadline. But we are getting really, really close. And then two of the other bills was, as we know, we did the right to repair last year. That was removing the need for a doctor visit and for a prescription, and also for a prior authorization on any form of wheelchair repair, because we're just unnecessarily adding burdens and time to individuals. Thanks due to us passing that essentially unanimously through the House, the Senate didn't take it. We made an administrative change through Medicaid. So now we no longer need the doctor visit or the prescription. I put a couple of things in there on the right to repair just to try to, I think we need to do everything we can on the MCOs to limit unnecessary denials and delays. One of my ideas as well was grandfathering in equipment. And so if you've already been provided one level of, let's say, manual wheelchair or a power wheelchair, unless you had seen a significant change in condition, then they would not be able to deny you when your 5-year period was up. I don't think either of those will end up getting a subcommittee. Representative Bowden, because I thought it was better from the majority party, has a bill with just her name on it that I helped her with. It's essentially the same language that we worked on last year with Representative Brian Best. Hopefully that does have some movement as well. Another bill that I did that is out there, but I don't know, I doubt if it's going to get a subcommittee, is to have Medicaid pay for standing devices in power wheelchairs like a lot of other states like Minnesota have moved to. So that is that's kind of the breakdown of where the bills are right now. Where people can help me and again and assist is really I would love to fill inboxes on to your local representatives or just to all members of HHS budget policy in the House and the Senate, filling up their inboxes with, please support this work without worry. This is a really meaningful piece of legislation that's going to be able to help all disabled people in Iowa, and just really leaning into this is a pro-employment, pro-family, pro-marriage bill that everyone in Iowa deserves the right to work and the right to be married and the right to pursue a gainful, meaningful life. And that can only be done through gainful full-time employment. We shouldn't have barriers in place that de-incentivize employment. That's where you can help, and doing all that we can to make sure that we don't have this current what is written in this Medicaid work requirement bill. That would be horrible.
Does anybody have any questions for Representative Turk? And actually, I'm going to ask the first one to get things started. Since the subcommittee on House File 538 on sub-minimum wage did not have any comment about why they wouldn't move the bill forward, do you have, do you know the reasons they aren't moving the bill forward? And is there anything that we can do to help move that bill?
I don't think there's any way that we can actually move it forward now. It's already been officially tabled. It would have, I believe the rules would have to be given another subcommittee, but I could be wrong. As for reasons why, no, I was not given one. I spoke to Representative Nif McCullough afterwards, asked her if she was going to sign, reinforced all of the amazing elements of this, and said, even if it's not a perfect bill right now, it would be great just to be able to maintain the discussion and keep it alive, put it in front of the full committee. She would not respond. She just said, I appreciate all of your hard work and your enthusiasm on this. Some of that, I'm sure, is pressure from above. When I was first elected 2 years ago, or 3 years ago now, there were only 2 members of the minority party, myself being one, that even got a single subcommittee. And so that's what I'm guessing the issue was. I don't think it's that they have any problems with the policy itself. I think some of it's just the tribalism of me being in the minority party. But she did also have brought someone in there that was the only person that spoke against the bill that seemed to be some level of friend of hers. So it could be a personal issue against it. But no, I don't have any further information than you, other than what she said. It was very odd. Most of the time, legislators and members of the subcommittee are very direct, and they will tell you immediately, yes, I'm supporting this, or no, I won't. Representative Niff McCullough didn't have the paper on her. She said she would bring it, and just a variety of excuses. But yeah, I think that's as far as I'll go on that.
Well, thanks for that. I see Dakota has his hand up. Go ahead, Dakota.
I just had a question on the bill HF 427. If I remember right, you said that won't get much traction. Do you know why? Is there not much traction? Is it too new? That kind of thing.
Well, in the minority, unfortunately, just the way that modern politics works, I've got to work incredibly hard just to be able to get a single subcommittee. And the fact that I ended up getting, 3 or maybe 4 or 5 by the time that we get through funnel week, I had to ultimately pick a hierarchy of where I wanted to spend my time and energy. I must have went over to the Senate building and spoke to Senator Clemish at least 20 or 25 times so that we could get a concurrent bill in the Senate, and the same in the House, having meetings every single day with Representative Nordman, with Representative Meyer. There's just not enough time in the day for me to be able to give that same level of time and energy to every single bill. For me, the single most impactful policy to be able to raise the tides, the boats for everyone, disabled Iowans, to me, is changing the MEPD. And second, this year, I thought it was the 14C, just to really reinforce disability employment. Both of those go hand in hand. So that's where I was putting all of my time and energy. Standing devices, although I think it is a great bill, it would be wonderful, it would really help people. I think that its impact would certainly be significantly less than some of these other major policies, which are really impeding a lot of individuals with disabilities. So it was just a matter of how I was allocating my time and energy. And in the grand scheme of disability policy, I had the standing devices towards the bottom. So that's some of the issue.
Hey, Dakota, I was also going to mention that these bills, even if they don't make it out of committee this year, are still alive next year. So even if something doesn't move this year, I think it's a good jumping off point for the summer and moving into 2026 to push. The more you push for it over the interim, when they're not at the Capitol, I think is the better chance you get. So it'll still be alive next year if that's something you want to work on.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that. I just got over like a digestive thing myself. So I've got a story about that. So if you ever want to hear about that, I can also be part of that subcommittee in the future.
I appreciate that.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Dakota. June has her hand up.
Hi there. I just wanted to double check. I was trying to do some looking this morning. Are there any updates on House File 408 related to appropriations with the waiver waiting list?
No. We are probably not going to see any significant movement on any waiver wait list until they finalize exactly what they're going to do on their home redesign, and then we'll end up looking at it. Now I am speaking with Ann, Representative Meyer, on hopefully at least on some level of appropriation in that direction, but I'm not sure if we're going to see that either this year. It's clear we're going to put $25 million towards nursing homes. I think we're going to see some actual appropriation to be able to address the lack of dental coverage for children on Medicaid and for individuals with disabilities on Medicaid. That's probably our number one issue. But until we end up working out this whole entire home system, is it going to be just a child, an adult, elderly? How this is going to work, I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of movement on that. Unfortunately, that's just the reality.
Thank you for the update.
Yep.
Representative Turek, there is a question in the chat. Do we know if work without worry bills will be discussed at committees this week, next week, or is the advocacy to try to get them on the agenda?
Yes, the advocacy is to try to get them on the agenda. That is completely up to Representative Meyer and Representative Nordman. So that's why I would ask everyone to fill up their inboxes, asking to make sure that this can be on the agenda as it was last year. We got it unanimously through committee, unanimously through subcommittee. That's the push now, because if we can't keep these things alive through funnel week, they're going to die, at least for this year. And we've got a great bill. I think we've got a bill absolutely ready for prime time. Even the issues that were addressed, we've got an amendment in place that addresses them all in terms of how we determine work, and not immediately assigning people to that are on Social Security, SSI, to the bill. We are with the way the amendment is worded. The definition of employment is not based on your federal income tax, because there was concern that we could end up actually having people lose benefits that would make under $14,000. The way that the amendment is written is that employment is defined as at least working 1 hour per month. So I think we got a really good bill, but we've got to keep it alive. So that's where it can come through. And the one thing that was clear to me, that it was so visually impactful to have these subcommittees completely filled with all these advocates and all these individuals with visible disabilities. That was my hope and that was my goal. Without a doubt, that is one of the reasons why we were able to pass that unanimously out of both of those subs. And I think that was one of the things, unfortunately, that hurt us on the 14C, is we just didn't have that same impact. We had significantly less individuals there.
I saw Garrett had his hand up, but I'm gonna go to, we had another question in the chat. With House File 485, the adaptive driving equipment tax exemption, will that include vehicle controls for driving, or would it also include ramps, chair lifts that are part of the vehicle to transport the disabled person as a passenger?
Yeah, the goal is for it to be all encompassing. Try to make the language as broad as possible. So any mobility aids that are used for driving, that is the goal, that we would be eliminating it all. Got to get that through subcommittee. Got to get it through committee.
That
So
was in Ways and Means, right?
it's in Ways and Means. Yes, and Representative Kaufman came up to me last week and asked me who I wanted on the subcommittee. He said, "I'm giving this a subcommittee. Who would you like on it?" So I assume that he's in favor of it.
And just for everybody, I asked that question because it's a tax bill and Ways and Means is the tax committee, and they do not have to get out bills before next week. So they have. Garrett, did you have a question? I saw you had your hand raised at one point.
Just a shout out to thank Representative Joster for all the hard work, all the dedication. And just to let you know that together we can do great things. And I really support all of that support and efforts that you do on it. A lot to all. Anything. Let's say you don't give us a phone call. Put it in here. So
Thanks, Garrett. Thanks, Garrett, too, for showing up all the time. You were at the Capitol this week, too.
Yeah, that's. Thank you, Garrett. It really meant a lot to have you up there at the Capitol, and so many other disability advocates and individuals. It was very, very impactful. I promise you that, for all these legislators I heard over and over and over. It was just the buzz and the talk in the Capitol of how unbelievable the turnout was in those subcommittees. And it's what we need. It's what we need to do. We need to keep advocating. We need to get people up there at the Capitol. The great problem is the disabled population has been a silent minority, and some of that is the lack of representation on this side, but also all of us being up there and making our presence felt on these issues. You know, when we're covering bills like we did on gender identity, we're getting 2,000, 3,000 Iowans up here making their presence felt. And from the disabled population, we haven't been quite as organized and coordinated of making our voice heard in that way. But I think that it really was. It was one of the proudest moments for me as a legislator, and it is to. Unfortunately, I'm one out of 150 representing the disabled population, but to have all of you come up there and be able to speak of your personal experience on this and how these policies are impeding your livelihood, it meant the world to me. It was I think it was my proudest moment up there at the Capitol.
Hopefully we'll give you some more of those. Well, the picture of the rotunda down there was not us. That was yesterday for the rally, for the civil rights bill, but just wanted to show you what craziness it was this week. But you can see from these pictures, we were pretty packed into the room, and there were people that didn't make it in. And so it was a great showing. Legislators did not quite expect that. We have time for one more question for Josh and Representative Turek, sorry.
Okay, call me Josh.
Any other questions before we move very quickly to a quick update on federal side?
Help me help you. Contact your legislators. It really
We
will make a difference, I promise.
We will put that in our report this weekend, that gets sent out to 7,000 people. So hopefully people will take action on that. So look for it in your inboxes on Monday morning. It'll also be on our website. And we'll put that directive in there.
We're already on top of it, boss.
Also wanted to mention that even though they tabled the bill, this is our bill of the week is that 14C thing. I mean, while it's tabled, there's still a million different ways that we could, if somebody decided they wanted to do something, we could amend it somewhere else. But we just wanted to include that. Of course, we prepared this before they actually had the subcommittee meeting, and that happens. Carlin, do you want to give a quick update? This will be in the report as well this weekend. So I know we aren't going to be able to cover all of this, but just a quick report on Medicaid and 504.
Yeah, thanks, Amy, and thanks, Representative Turek, again, and please chime in on this also, because I know you have been following the Section 504 lawsuit, and we're getting a lot of questions and comments, and advocates are really concerned about this. And that's been, I mean, it's great to see the concern and people reaching out to the Attorney General's office. And just for, we don't have much more update from what happened last week, which was that the states did a status report that basically said that they're, continuing the case, but in their status report, they said that it doesn't involve Section 504 to the extent that we are all claiming it does, to make it unconstitutional. But in the lawsuit, it still states the same thing. So that's a very brief update on that. So we still need to continue advocacy. The states, in the status report, that they said that they will file a monthly status report. So, that means that we could be in this for the long haul until either they're waiting for the administration to do something, which could be very simple, as far as removing the gender dysphoria language that was included in the preamble. It's not in final rule, which is important to point out. In the meantime, we can still put pressure on the Attorney General's office, but also this is a state of Iowa issue. That's not just the Attorney General. That's behind this. The whole state is. So the other person that we could put pressure on is the governor. So in our Take Action Center, we have a way for you to write to the AG and the governor at the same time and ask them to drop out of this lawsuit. It probably is not going to make a huge difference at this point, but I think the more pressure that we put on them and know that the disability community is very concerned about this, the better for making sure our voices are heard. There's lots of advocates who are also doing things on their own and doing some campaigns on their own too, which is great, and don't stop. We just need to keep that activity and the pressure on. So, and congratulations to all of you who are working on this, because it is very, very important. As we saw this week at the Capitol, the legislature is not shying away from taking away the rights of some individuals out of state law. And so this could open the door for that to be to happen at the federal level. And we don't want to see that happen. So keep up the advocacy there. And then also what happened this week was that the US House passed it's not a detailed budget, but it's what they will use to structure the rest of their budget ask in regards to Medicaid. At least $800 billion is going to need to be cut over the next decade for them to reach their goals and what they're trying to do with the federal budget. So this could have devastating effects on states, including Iowa. It would mean that our state legislature would have to reduce Medicaid budget potentially, and that means less funding for what's happening for community-based services, for health insurance services, for care services, for waiver services. So it could be devastating. So we need to keep the pressure on Congress, even though the House has moved something. We still need to keep pressure on members of Congress, both representatives and senators. So that's also in our Take Action Center. So very easy to jump in there and take action.
Please do, because we have both Medicaid cuts and 504 up on our Action Center. And I just put in, we've had 280 people email the AG as of this morning, and 381 have emailed Congress and the governor or president about the Medicaid cuts. So over 500, almost 600 people have taken action so far. So join them. I know we're out of time. So thank you everybody for coming. We really appreciate. And yes, that is just by email, Maggie. So not counting people who call.
And you can call.
Yes.
Just want to let everybody know I do have a meeting with the Attorney General on Wednesday, and I'm going to go in there with Disability Rights Iowa, and that is going to be the push is to have Iowa removed, which is the only way we can ensure complete and total 504 protections for all individuals. But just wanted to let you guys know that.
Well, thank you for that, and please give us an update.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good weekend, everyone.